I think this is the second meeting where I've been saying good evening instead of good afternoon when I begin calling to order the Campus Planning Buildings and Grounds Committee. We do have 4 speakers who wish to address us with respect to item 4 on sustainability, and if they can sort of make their way up to the mic, I think it might be actually quicker to address our consent agenda very quickly first, right before we get to item 4. The consent agenda consists of the minutes from the January meeting and these 2 action items. One has to do with the amendment of the non-state funded capital outlay program, and the second with respect to the state-funded capital outlay program. My understanding is that we don't need a motion with respect to those items. We simply need to see if there are any objections to them. They're all detailed in your materials. If there are no objections to them, they stand approved. That allows us to move directly to item 4. The speakers that are here, hopefully are still here, are Eric.
Chair Eisen, I yes? think you do need a motion on those items.
Well, I have been advised earlier, because I thought that might be the case, that because of the nature of these resolutions, we don't. But can you consult with Andy, because I think Andy, I heard something quite different.
I mean, I think if the board is taking action, in order for the board to take action, there has to be a motion for you to approve for the item.
Can I defer that to the end of the
sure.
committee business while you
sure.
let me know which way to go, because Vi San Juan and I have been having the same question back and forth for the last half hour or so.
Great.
All right, so the first speaker, Eric Recchia, am I pronouncing your name right? You have 2 minutes each to address us, and behind Eric will be Stephanie Yee. Go ahead.
Thank you. You did pronounce my name right. Thank you, Board of Trustees, for allowing us to speak in front of you. I'm here to speak today on behalf of the CSU Sustainability Policy, specifically on the section about food that was added to it. My name is Eric Recchia. I'm an alumnus from Humboldt State University. It's a great university. I'm really proud of the sustainability heritage they have there. I also work with the California Student Sustainability Coalition. We're one of the largest organizations in the country that works with students on the issues of sustainability, and we're student-run, student-governed. We work with several thousand students across the state at more than 24 campuses across all the university systems from 8 CSUs. And we've been working for a couple years now to help craft a sustainability policy and add a food section to it, 20% real food by 2020. We're interested in seeing this added. We think it's a very important part of sustainability. I wanted to share a quick story with you. One day I was at Humboldt State at a great program we have on campus called CCAT, that's Student Run Sustainability Initiative. And there was a student that walked by and saw some lettuce. And they're like, is that lettuce? Like real lettuce coming out of the ground? Never seen a vegetable growing before. And, that really stayed with me of why it's really important to connect with people around food and really introduce them to sustainable food and sustainable eating practices. I know you're running late, so I'm going to keep it short, but I really urge you to pass this policy. It's a great policy the Chancellor's Office developed, especially with the food section in it. And I really would like to see that voted on at the May meeting. I'm going to have our next speaker come up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stephanie Yee.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Yee. I'm a student at CSU Monterey Bay, and I'm majoring in environmental studies. I'm part of the group that's representing the campaign for Real Food for CSUs. We are a set of passionate and hardworking students from multiple California state universities wishing to actively create real food systems. We want local, fair, ecologically sound, and humane real foods in the CSU system. We will work with the CSU Board of Trustees and affiliates to promote at least 20% real food by the year 2020. What we're asking from you today is your support on the revised policy and for the Board of Trustees to pass the policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Durkin.
Thank you. So I'm Christopher Durkin from San Francisco State University, and the Real Food Challenge at San Francisco State University as well. And in my studies at SF State, I've learned about the environmental and public health issues regarding our food system. And this system has contributed to climate change as well as water pollution and vast resource use, although for our benefit. It has also limited the ability of our students to purchase healthy food. And As a grocery store employee of 2.5 years, I've witnessed coworkers as well as customers and friends purchasing unhealthy food on a regular basis, and I fear the long-term consequences of this kind of consumption. It is also especially difficult for me to watch as one of my friends who also attends San Francisco State University continues to eat improperly because the food which is provided is mainly processed and rather than real food and easily accessible. Therefore, I strongly urge each and every one of you to consider implementing a policy, sustainability policy, emphasizing a reduction in the environmental impact of the CSU food systems and which gives students and the public more healthy food options for the benefit of their health as well as the benefit of future generations.
Thank you very much. Annalisa Campos.
Greetings, my name is Annalisa Campos. I'll be graduating from Cal State Northridge this May with a urban planning and sustainability degree. My role here today is to ask for your support for the Real Food Challenge campaign. The Real Food for campaign leadership has grown within the past several months. We have over 1,200 individuals sign an online petition through Credo Mobilize. Just in February, 30 student leaders have gotten together in Santa Cruz to learn about how to effectively support this policy. 4 CSU schools have passed resolutions already to support the sustainability policy, including Humboldt State, San Francisco, Monterey Bay, and Long Beach. Of those 4 schools, 4 others are here today to also in attendance to support this policy. Healthy food effectively fuels the mind and the body to make the necessary changes that we all want to see in the world today. So please support our policy, and thank you so much for letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just got a note that there's one other speaker, Taylor Haren, who is available and got knocked off our list accidentally.
That might have been because I was on there twice today. So thank you all again for giving me an opportunity to speak. As I stated earlier, my name's Taylor Haren. I'm CSSA Sustainability Officer, and I also serve as AS President at Chico State. It's a privilege to be here to advocate, speak, and support for this policy. As you know, students have been an integral part of this process and are very much in support of it and excited to be part of implementing it. This policy will integrate sustainability throughout the CSU. It's progressive, innovative, and future-oriented. It'll challenge each of us. It'll challenge our campuses. It'll challenge the entire system to be environmental stewards, fiscally responsible, and socially equitable. As a robust and resource-intensive university, we have the responsibility of conservatively managing the natural and non-renewable resources that we consume. More importantly, as the largest academic institution in the nation, we need to be educating our students about sustainability so that they leave our institutions with not only a degree, but also a sense of accountability and awareness about their impact on this world. CSSA recently passed a resolution in support of this policy. It's been a great opportunity to discuss it and to consult the 23 campuses and their associated students. I know this policy is complex and it is going to be a challenge for us to bring it on, but I hope that you all, as trustees, are in support of it because as students we are and we're willing to put the work forward to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for your comments and for the enthusiasm and articulation the students bring to this obviously very important issue. So before we have the staff present the issue, I wanted to just make a couple of remarks. We have the governor here and he can speak for himself, but I did find some remarks that he had made back when he made his State of the State address back in 2013 that I thought were quite relevant to this sustainability policy that we're proposing. So I'm quoting, I probably can't do the delivery the same way, but I'm quoting from him where he said, when we think about California's future, no long-term liability presents as great a danger to our well-being as the buildup of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This is a different kind of challenge than we ever faced. It requires acting now, even though the worst consequences are perhaps decades in the future. And that struck me as presenting, the kind of conundrum that we're faced with when we're talking about policies like this. The problem is in the future. The solution has to be begun now, but those of us who are being asked to work on the solution will not enjoy necessarily the benefits of it because it is all happening in the future. And how do you do that? Philosophically, how do you motivate people to act in a way that will benefit others but not themselves? I found another line in the governor's State of the State message that I thought was part of the answer to that conundrum. He said back in 2013, and it's very true today, nothing is more determinative of our future than how we teach our children. So as an educational institute, I think it's so important that we focus on things like sustainability, and obviously the students have the enthusiasm for it, and I think we all do. So Vi, if you and Caitlin Steele, who is here today, can present the item. Caitlin, I've had the pleasure of meeting recently. She's the Director of Sustainability and Energy at the San Francisco State University campus. She was honored by her peers in 2013 as the CSU Sustainability Champion, and I'm very pleased to welcome you here today and for the two of you to present this item.
Thank you very much, Trustee Eisen, for your time spending it with Caitlin, I, and Len Pettis. It was really very helpful to us, and the document you see today in front of you, Trustees, has great input from Trustee Eisen, so I appreciate that effort.
Pleasure.
It is good to be here today to provide the board information on the progress made towards goals set in 2005 on the sustainability policy. Next slide, please. And to highlight proposed revisions to the board policy before turning to Caitlin to share her experience as San Francisco State University's Director of Sustainability. I'm thankful to Caitlin and all the campus and Chancellor's Office staff and faculty that work to improve the stewardship of our facilities and reduce the CSU environmental impact. The CSU has had energy conservation policies in place since 1978, and the board has periodically updated the policy on an as-needed basis, with the last update in 2005. We did not come back to the board as planned in 2011 to establish new goals based on the severe budget and staff reductions that had occurred as the policy calls for increased investment and reporting. While budget challenges still exist, the most significant change in the policy is to broaden it from being focused on physical plant operations and building design to propose the policy apply to all areas across the university's business operations, academic program, and self-support entities like student housing and student unions. In addition to the agenda item, attachment A in your book is the strike-through version of the existing policy showing additions, deletions, and language that will move to a procedures manual. And we also have attachment B, which is the version with edits accepted to facilitate reader review and comment. Next slide. Oh, thank you. This is fine. The policy includes goals for the reduction of greenhouse gases attributed to electricity and natural gas used by campus buildings consistent with the goals of the California Global Warming Solutions Act, AB 32. In addition, the policy layers in additional reduction targets of carbon emissions by 2040. Hand in hand with the goal to reduce carbon emissions is the goal to increase renewable energy generation and renewable energy procurement. This graph displays the consumption of British thermal units, or BTUs per square foot, over time for the California State University system. The BTUs include electricity and natural gas used in campus facilities. In 2005, the board established a goal to reduce energy use intensity by 15% from 2003-04 to 2009-10. The system made good progress and achieved a 10% reduction in spite of the significant reductions in capital outlay and operating funds to implement projects. This graph displays metric tons of carbon emitted by the system from 1990 to 2012. The revised policy proposes to change the conservation metrics from British thermal units per square foot and to also track the metric tons of carbon emissions, which will be our new metric. This aligns with AB 32 to reduce emissions to 1990 levels by 2020. Based on this graph, current emissions for the system are about 400,000 metric tons, so a reduction of about 75,000 75,000 metric tons of carbon would get the CSU to 1990 levels. This is shown in green as a 2020 goal. The graph also shows the 2040 goal as the blue line to reduce levels to 80% of 1990 levels. This will be a challenge for CSU, as Taylor mentioned, one that will take the entire university working together to achieve. The updated policy continues the goal to design and construct efficient new and renovated buildings and recognizes the U.S. Green Building Council's leadership in energy and environmental design. Their certification has grown to be the rating system of choice and is recognized by the public and students and faculty and staff. The new policy sets the bar at the LEED Silver rating, with campuses asked to strive for gold or platinum certifications. The campuses continue to pursue funding for conservation projects in existing buildings, like the San Luis Obispo project proposed for today's consent agenda item. This slide, next slide, thank you, shows the goals established for solar power generation and clean technology or cogeneration. The CSU made good progress in achieving the energy independence goal by achieving 80% of the board's goal to install 50 megawatts in spite of the difficult fiscal climate. We fell short of the clean technology goal, but surpassed the 10 megawatt solar power goal by installing 11.3 megawatts. The new goal is to increase the energy generation from 44 megawatts to 80 megawatts, or an 80% increase. The proposed policy includes new sustainability goals for the university. The goals are fairly consistent with state sustainability goals and are stated to encourage campuses to adopt best practices and revise existing practices to reduce our impact. Improvements in water conservation are sought in support of the governor's executive order, along with waste reduction, sustainable procurement, and food service. This year, Capital Planning teamed with Academic Affairs and the System-Wide Academic Senate to develop and prepare a grant program to encourage campuses to incorporate sustainability into the curriculum, using the campus as a living lab. I'll turn it over to Caitlin to talk about San Francisco State.
Thank you, Vi. SF State was the recipient of 4 of the 23 Campuses of Living Lab grants. I want to highlight one of the classes that is being offered this spring semester. Jason Henderson, Associate Professor of Geography, created a new course titled Bicycle Geographies, where students are examining the economic and political impact of bicycling and analyzing the bike routes available to SF State commuters. This is a picture of one of the 23 bike field trips that Professor Henderson offers to his students. SF State wants to ensure that all of its graduates are educated on sustainability, and that is why the Academic Senate passed a sustainable literacy requirement. Starting in the 14-15 academic year, all students will be required to complete a course on sustainability. We are proud of the comprehensive campus-wide sustainability program we have created over the last 10 years, and I would take a few minutes to highlight some of the key aspects. President Wong spearheaded the campus-wide commitment to reducing the campus environmental impact when he signed the American College and University President's Climate Commitment. We are hosting the statewide California Higher Education Sustainability Conference summer 2015, and I hope to see you all there. Our students are working with our Transportation Committee and local transit agencies to offer a reduced transit pass to all SF State students. In addition to the sustainability programs I just mentioned, the Office of Sustainability works on reports tracking utility usage, commuting patterns, and related greenhouse gas emissions. This chart shows SF State's greenhouse gas emissions for the period 1990 to 2013. The y-axis measures the total metric tons of CO2 that are related to utilities, air travel, and commuting. SF State's long-standing commitment to the environment and to reducing its greenhouse gas emissions has led to the campus reducing emissions by 27% over the last 25 years. Through a comprehensive transportation demand management program, a commitment to reducing utilities consumption, a 75% landfill diversion rate with a zero waste goal by 2020, the university, through its Office of Sustainability and its Sustainability Committee, has committed to a goal of reducing GHG emissions 40% below 1990 levels by 2020, which we are on target for. On this slide, we're looking at the campus reductions in electricity utility usage from the fiscal year 2007 through 2012. SF State has stabilized its kilowatt-hour consumption, even though we've added over 80,000 square feet when our new library building came back online in the fiscal year 2011 and 12. The second graph shows the natural gas usage in therms. SF State has realized a 40% reduction in gas usage over 5 years through monitor-based commissioning projects, energy management systems, and from savings from our 1.2 megawatt fuel cell plant. This third graph shows the water usage in gallons. We have lowered our water usage by 35% over 5 years through native planning, new irrigation, low-flow faucets, toilets, shower heads, and through rainwater collection projects. In closing, I hope I have shown what a comprehensive sustainability program on a CSU campus looks like. While the individual campuses have been creating sustainability programs, I feel that a CSU system-wide policy will unify and strengthen campus efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Trustee Eisen, that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I mean, as all of you can see, this is a complex policy that has lots of moving pieces to it. I think it's comprehensive. We're looking at this issue from just about every angle you could look at it, including looking at vendors who would be supplying us and asking them to demonstrate their commitment to sustainability and align our interests with theirs. Including infusing even more so our curriculum with education regarding sustainability, climate science, etc., building our students into the problem solvers of the future because they will be sorely needed. And I'm always inspired when I see how much is being done, and it offsets my pessimism about all that needs to be done. But working together, I think this great university system can make quite a contribution. This is an information item. Everybody's views are valuable, and we really want as much input as possible. The staff is looking for input. It'll come back on the May agenda for approval. But are there currently, I know we're running up against our 5 o'clock deadline, but are there, Governor Brown?
I think that's very impressive. And I think it's very important that each campus take their own cut at how to do this. And admittedly, each campus is a very tiny part of the overall problem. But we got to get at it somehow. Now, California, I think it's well to know because you're doing something, but you're part of a big something that the state of California is doing, even though we're only 1% of the problem in the world. And climate change, and that affects water and the gas and the electricity and transportation, it's a global problem, but we have to get at it locally. And the more we get at it locally, we'll also spread that. So it's my policy to sign MOUs with Israel, with China. We're going to go to Mexico in July. We already have MOUs with Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. We're working with Quebec. We're looking to work with other states. And in the face of a lot of denial, widespread denial in certain quarters, California is forging ahead. And I just had the idea while you were talking that what is required here is a growing, widespread effort to take this existential challenge to our whole well-being. It isn't tomorrow, but it's not that far off in terms of passing a possible tipping point that would lead to irreversible, catastrophic damages that, because of feedback and effects, we couldn't really manage very well, if at all. So we don't know whether that's 10 years away or 50 years away, or what part of that. So we're really playing Russian roulette here. So the fact that SF State is doing this, if all the campuses could do that, and then even go beyond, because I noticed the electricity, there's probably a lot of gain there that you can get from renewable energy, and also reducing the need for electricity. Now, I have to say something about transportation. San Francisco has a lot of streetcars and buses. Transportation in California, just so we all get a number here, last year according to the Department of Transportation, vehicle miles traveled were 332 billion miles. The sun is 93 million miles away, but Californians, in their 32 million vehicles, of which 22 million are passenger cars, drove 332 billion. 99% of that is oil, fossil fuel, petroleum, CO2 producing. So this is a big effort. It's not happening in the United States, other than President Obama's some executive moves. It's not happening in Canada. It's not happening in South America. To turn it around is going to take a lot of imagination, a lot of belief, and a lot of individual initiative until this builds up and gathers momentum. And just what I saw today is a very powerful step forward. And if every college would join in, and I know it's difficult because there's salaries, there's bottleneck classes, there's fees, there's all this other stuff. But if we could just get this longer range perspective, and after all, that's what students can do, because you're thinking of the longer term. That's what you can think about. That's what studying is all about. So I think this is very impressive, and I'd like to see UC emulate this. Then if we get the community colleges doing this, you get a real movement going. And then if you can get colleagues around the country to do this, and then you get some through the internet and get other colleges around the world, and now you hook all this up, you could, from more bottoms up, you could overcome the really deeply embedded inertia that's coming down from the political leadership all around the world. And so I think this is one of the most hopeful signs that I've seen. I was glad I was here to see it. So that's great. And let's keep going and go further. And whatever we can do, I will certainly support that, because I think this is not the most immediate, but the most important over the life of the students. So great stuff.
Thank you so much for those remarks. And we did have a report that was delivered to us in 2013 that kind of tried to capture, I mean, what we heard about San Francisco State is really the tip of the iceberg in terms of what goes on among these 23 campuses. And every time I visit one or talk to a president, I learn more and more and more about what we're doing. And the more we all know about what we're all doing, the more we will be inspired, as you've inspired us, to keep this thing going and move it forward and become a real engine for change. Professor Achtenberg.
Thank you, Dr. Eisen. If we could also have some emphasis on creative financing opportunities that might be available to us to finance some of this that requires financing. And the other thing is commercialization opportunities on the flip side. We have so many excellent students and professors working on this. This is a catastrophe, but there's an opportunity there. If we're on the cutting edge of commercializing some of these things, we can sell it places, we can export it, we can do all kinds of things. So it's a real opportunity for us in the applied fields, the CSU. It's a real opportunity for us to shine and maybe even to make some money at it. So I'd really encourage that look as well. Thank you.
Chancellor.
Thank you, trustees and Governor Brown. Listening to the conversation, it's important to recognize the leadership that the CSU has provided. Back in 2006, there were 12 presidents who gathered to discuss what became known as the American College and University Presidents Climate Commitment. And so there were 12 founding presidents who got together and said this matters, very much like what the governor just articulated in Trustee Eisen and Trustee Achtenberg. And Paul Zing was a member of that group of 12. And that was in December of 06. And then come March of 07, it had grown from 12 to about 160, including many other presidents that are in this room or their campuses, included me. I was in Oregon and Idaho at the time. The ACU PCC, we like to call it the PCC just to keep the acronyms down, the President's Climate Commitment, now has almost 900 to 1,000 campuses across America, research ones, comprehensive and community colleges, private and public. And I've actually, Michael Crow, who's been at Arizona State, chaired that group for 4 or 5 years. I became chair 4 or so years ago. I'm trying to get off because I've got this full-time job. But Diana Harrison is on the steering committee, and so the CSU leadership will continue to be part of that. And well over half of our campuses are members, and I think this board policy will help encourage the other half to become members and make commitments. As you said, Governor, you know, everybody doing a little bit, it will make a huge difference for the world going forward. So, and it's a way to have our students see us modeling the right behaviors, so when they go into their businesses and their homes and their communities, they can also model the right behavior. So it's one of those areas where CSU has played a leadership role over the years, and I'm proud of Paul seeing that many years ago, and I'm proud of Diane continuing to carry the torch, and I'm anxious to get off because I have too much to do. But I'm not uncommitted.
Chair Lynch,
Yes, Caitlin, you mentioned an event happening in 2015. Can you refresh us on that?
So I think it's going to be the 12th annual California Higher Education Sustainability Conference. Will be on San Francisco State University's campus summer 2015. And actually this summer it's at San Diego State University. And it's been on a few CSU campuses before. And it really shows the commitment of the campus for sustainability.
Great. I was just thinking that Trustee Achtenberg mentioned commercialization, and one of the things that we may want to do is try to marry up some of your concept of what you want to do at that 2015 with some folks from the Next Generation or Tom Steyer's group in San Francisco and get them committed to working with us on issues of that nature as well. And I'd be happy to make some introductions in that regard.
Great, thank you.
any other comments? I can barely see you over there.
I know the sun's behind me. Thank you for recognizing me on behalf of the Academic Senate. I'd just like to point out that we're very excited to see this and that it leads off with the academic curriculum, because that is the way that we impact the future. We share the governor's concern and interest in this issue, and the Academic Senate has had 4 resolutions encouraging a policy, the concept of sustainability in our strategic plan for the CSU, its integration in the curriculum, and acknowledging the presidents who are part of that climate initiative. And so we're very excited to see this, and we thank the Vi and your group for putting it together.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you. In the attachment as it relates to sustainable food services, we're having that ongoing discussion and dialogue. I hope we'll consult with our agricultural programs, particularly both at San Luis and Fresno and others that may be able to add to that. I know that that's a struggle in a lot of circles, how to manage that challenge, and I hope that we can bring their expertise to bear, while being also sensitive to the large agricultural communities that we serve, and our responsibilities there to both being sustainable but also the economic growth of California. So I'm concerned about how some of those figures are met in the current market environment, and I just want to make sure we're sensitive to that.
Thanks, Trustee Monville, and thanks to the faculty for all of the support for this policy, and to the students and to the presidents. I mean, it is really going to be a great joint effort of all of us who make up this institution.